Hello, everyone. Wanted to give you some direction and understanding about this learning module, which is labeled Ethics Cases. In our case, for this summer, it will just be an ethics case because we're going to have just one group with all of you being part of that same group. So the case that we're going to consider has to do with ethics and impairment. So you can find the case here. I've also included the AICPA Code of Conduct because we're considering ethics, and this is the Code of Conduct for professional CPAs. This is how they need to look at how they proceed in various situations. So that's a good reference for answering some of the pieces of this case. I've provided you with a discussion topic for you to communicate with your group or all of you in the class to come up with how you're going to work this through, this case. I've given you some hints in the codification, FASB codification, and if you are not familiar with how to find things in that codification, hopefully you learned that in your intermediate course. If you need to go back and review some of that information, please do. But here are a couple of excerpts from the codification to save you too much searching. But that is where we find our rules for accounting, specifically in the United States. This will be where you turn in the video that you're going to make of your presentation here in this ethics case. And then this rubric down here at the bottom is how I will grade it. So the goal is to put together a single video. Obviously you can each make pieces of it, but put it together and turn it in. That will explain the answers. Now let's look at how this case is set up. If you go into this case, there's an introduction, and then there's lots of information, a couple of pages of information, and then there's a requirements part 1, and then there are 3 of them. Now we'll make your life simpler, and we will not require you to look at the international accounting standards on this issue, just the accounting issues in the United States. So you do not need to reference IAS 36, but when you reference the FASB, you need to tell us which section you're referring to in your presentation. All right, so this is specifically a situation where there are not exactly a right or wrong answer, and so what you're going to do is support your answer based on the rules. So the first part has these 3 questions for you to consider. All right, so that should be section 1 of your presentation. Then there are some new developments that kind of clarify what the situation we're dealing with. And then you have some additional questions. So in your presentation, you want to make sure that you're clear as to which section you are working or explaining. And you can do them in order. But this it gives us, again, a little more detail and enlightenment. Again, you can ignore the international component, just use the FASB. All right, and then they give you the situation at the end of the year and how that might play out given your scenario. You want to make sure that in your presentation you've answered all of these questions to the best of your ability. Again, it's not a matter of getting exactly the right answer, because there's probably some judgment here, But as it says here in number 9, many decisions in accounting and auditing involve considerable uncertainty, require the application of judgment, and have a significant ethical component. That's what we're trying to expose you to in this scenario. So, as a group, as a class, you're going to work together, and hopefully with everybody's collective wisdom, you'll be able to come up with some insight as to how this should play out. And while the situation with spiders may be a little bit fictitious, this is based on a real life kind of scenario in terms of what judgments you have to do when there is an impairment, and how that might play out in the financial statements, and what you're communicating in those financial statements to investors or to the bank or whoever is going to read these financial statements. Again, please ask questions if there's anything unclear. If you need additional guidance, post that in your discussion board. I will respond, and hopefully together we'll come up with some really good experience in being able to apply some uncertain types of accounting rules that are typical for professionals in the world of accounting.